Hi, Timothy Carlson here. Not too long ago, I did some videos looking at Blu-ray releases of the classic 60s Jerry Anderson Super Mario Nation puppet series Thunderbirds, both the complete series and a Blu-ray that contained the two movies that it spawned. But did you know there was actually, about 20 years ago, a live-action Thunderbirds movie? I was aware, but never actually saw it until recently because I've been on something of a Jerry Anderson kick lately, so I actually just ordered this from Amazon not too long ago and watched it for the first time. This is Thunderbirds, the live-action feature film. I'm going to unbox this release, share my opinion, and let you know what I think. There's the cover art there with the characters, nice background art with the vehicles. That's actually a pretty nice cover shot, I won't deny that. Here's our spine text. And Jerry Anderson, who created the original show, and his ex-wife and collaborator Sylvia Anderson were both torn as to how they felt about this movie. We'll get into that later. There you got, critic quotes, photographs, summary, legalese, credits, list of special features. Inside the package, we just have the disc, and it's just plain white, so no real surprises there. I'll read the description of the movie as follows. Take off with the Thunderbirds. Armed with the latest high-tech vehicles and gadgets, the Tracy family tackles global rescue operations on a daily basis. When their arch-enemy, the Hood, sabotages the Thunderbirds as part of his master plan to rob the world's richest banks, it's up to Alan, the youngest Tracy, to spring into action before disaster strikes. Loaded with non-stop thrills, you'll love the full-throttle family adventure that has fans cheering. Thunderbirds are go. Now, I admittedly came into this release with a little bit of apprehension based on some of what I had heard and seen. Jerry Anderson, the creator of the original series, called this movie the biggest load of crap he had ever seen in his life. His ex-wife and co-collaborator, Sylvia Anderson, she, however, was much more warm to the film and actually gave it some positive feedback. So, interesting to see the split there. And, despite my initial reservations, there's some pretty big talent involved in this movie. The cast includes, Anthony Edwards, Bill Paxton, Ben Kingsley. I mean, you got some pretty noteworthy names there. You even have, Vanessa Hudgens before she was famed for her work with Disney a few years later. And Ron Cook playing Parker, the butler to Lady Penelope. So I have to say, the talent speaks for itself. This was even directed by Jonathan Frakes of Star Trek The Next Generation fame, who'd also hosted the TV series Beyond Belief, Fact or Fiction back in the late 90s, early 2000s. So I finally had a chance to watch the movie, sit down and give it some time. How is the live-action Thunderbirds movie? I don't think this movie is without merit, but unfortunately, I do think a lot of the criticisms leveled at the movie are valid. I couldn't quite recommend this, to be perfectly honest. I do think a lot of the cast members give their best. You can certainly tell Ben Kingsley is having the time of his life playing an evil mastermind. How you go from playing Mahatma Gandhi to playing a role like this just goes to show how diverse and talented a man he really is. Bill Paxton plays Jeff Tracy, the father of the 5 Tracy sons, who of course puts together International Rescue. And one major difference that I think works to the movie's detriment is the characters here are much younger than themselves in the original TV series. The Tracy brothers in that series are certainly Jeff Tracy's sons, but they're all adults. I think some of them actually had Air Force backgrounds. But here they're actual, literal kids. The biggest problem this movie makes, however, is that the Thunderbird craft aren't in it enough. Most of the movie revolves around Alan Tracy, the youngest son, Fermat, who's the son of Brains and a character created for the movie, and Tintin, their caretaker Carano's daughter, are stuck on the island and they have to infiltrate and foil the Hood's plans. Unfortunately, that ends up taking up most of the movie's runtime. Jeff Tracy and the other Tracy boys pretty much get shafted, stranded out in outer space for most of the movie. The other Tracy sons are pretty much one-dimensional and don't really get much to do, and that's really disappointing. There's also a much more juvenile style of humor on board here than the original series. The original series certainly had its humorous moments, but a lot of this just feels like you could have dumped it in any family movie and called it a day. There are a few scenes in the movie that are pretty good, and I think these actors do the best they can with what they're given. It's certainly a little odd seeing Anthony Edwards play the stuttering Brains. although I won't deny that did get a few chuckles out of me throughout. But I just have to say, overall, I'm not thrilled with the movie. I mean, if the movie's called Thunderbirds, I want to see more of the Thunderbird craft. I want to see more of international rescue doing rescues. And the movie just doesn't deliver on that, and it can't quite get its priorities straight. Certainly a worthwhile one-time viewing for the curious, but just be warned, you might feel about like Jerry Anderson did. I'm happy to say the Blu-ray release actually does look really good. It's a movie that has a lot of big, bold, colorful environments and vehicles, and they certainly benefit from the transition to Blu-ray. And there are some, nice, deep, dark scenes that still look pretty good too. If they ever did make a 4K disc of this movie and added HDR, I think it could be an absolutely beautiful looking disc. I mean, the really vibrant color palette throughout this movie actually reminded me a lot of the 2008 Speed Racer movie, which would come out a few years later. Another one we also need a 4K release for while we're at it. There are some bonus features on here, although it's mostly just like the EPK type stuff you'd expect. There's also a music video from the band that does the song that plays over the closing credits. I have to say, I certainly came into this curious and with skepticism. I cannot quite recommend this. It doesn't quite capture the feel of the classic series, despite its best intentions. I really do hope Jonathan Frakes doesn't give up his directorial career over this one. It's been almost 20 years since this came out, and he hasn't directed anything since on the big screen. But that guy has talent, and I would like to see him working again in a major capacity. Are you a fan of the Thunderbirds series, and how do you think this feature film adaptation fared? Do you think it was great? Do you think it was horrible? Or are you kind of in the middle? Comment down below and know what you think. Also, remember to subscribe to this channel for more content, because I'm always posting new videos. And make sure you give this one a like if you found it helpful. I'm Taylor T. Carlson. I'll see you next time.